So on the upper left, I want you to copy what you see on your screen, pause the video to do so, and when you're ready to continue, press play. Please pause now. So with multiplying and dividing inequalities, there is an important rule that sometimes you will bring down the inequality symbol and sometimes you reverse the inequality symbol. And this is the basic rules here for when you reverse or when you bring down. The first rule is if you multiply or divide a positive number to both sides, that's when you bring down the inequality symbol. The second part is if you multiply or divide a negative number to both sides, you then reverse the inequality symbol. So we're going to apply these rules to the problems on these notes. Okay, so for number 1 on the top right, I want you to write this problem. 6x is greater than negative 18. And we're going to solve this just like we did with our equations. For multiplying and dividing, we're going to circle the variable, and we're going to draw a line underneath the inequality symbol. And so now this x is being multiplied by 6. It's right next to it. So it's a number on the side. So if it's a number on the side, we're going to divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 6. So I want you to show your work, divide both sides here with a little division bar. Now, on the side here, I also want you to write that we're dividing by 6. Okay, so that way it's going to make sense eventually why we reverse, or when we reverse and when we don't reverse an inequality symbol. So write this on the side, and then you're going to solve this. So the 6's 6 divided by 6, that's just going to equal 1. You could put a 1 here, so it's a 1x that comes down. And then on the inequality symbol is going to go straight down the wall, doesn't reverse because we're dividing both sides by 6. Okay, and that 6 is positive. And then on the right side, even though the negative 18 is negative, we're going to use our triangle guy. So negative 18 divided by 6 is going to be negative 3. Okay, but it doesn't reverse because we divided both sides by a positive 6. Okay, so now let's take a look at number 2. And on problem 2, I want you to write 16 is greater than or equal to W divided by 4. All right, so you're going to circle the variable, and I'm going to use my red pen to circle, and draw the line underneath the inequality symbol. And you want to get W by itself, and here it's being divided by 4. So the inverse of dividing is multiplication. So we're going to multiply this by 4. So I'm going to write here times 4. And on the other side, I'm going to squeeze in a times 4. Okay. Now on the side, I want you to write here multiply by 4. Just so that you can see we're multiplying both sides by a positive number. So now we're just going to solve. On the left side, we have 4 times 6, and that equals 64. So I'll write that down here. Okay, and then the inequality symbol, because we're multiplying by a positive 4 to each side, it's just going to go straight down. So we're going to bring that down right here, greater than or equal to. And on the other side, the 4's times 4 and then divided by 4, those are going to cancel out. Okay, oops, it's like cross-canceling. You have just 4 and 4, leaving you with just a W. So now we've solved. 64 is greater than or equal to W. Okay? So now let's take a look at problem number 3. And when you write this down, leave a space in between the 3 and then the fraction 2/3, because we're going to be writing in that space. So I want you to write 2/3 n is greater than negative 6. And we're going to, again, circle the variable n. And then you're going to draw a line underneath the greater than symbol. Okay, so now we want to get rid of a fraction. And this is a fraction on the side. Okay, so when there's a fraction right next to n, we can divide by 2/3, but the quicker way of getting rid of that 2/3 is by multiplying it by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by 3/2 to each side. So let's go ahead and write that 3/2. And then in parentheses, I'm going to write here multiply by 3 over 2, okay? And I would like for you to write the same thing. Okay, so now on the left side, the 3 over 2 times 2/3, they're going to cancel out. The 3's and the 2's will cancel out, okay? And it's going to leave you with a whole bunch of 1's here. All right, so that's just going to be n. 1n. And then the inequality, because we're multiplying by a positive 3 over 2 to each side, it's going to go straight down. So we break down the greater than symbol. And then on the right side, we have to multiply using a fraction. So this -6, we're going to make that an improper fraction. We're going to put it over 1. And then always check if you can cross cancel. And here you can cross cancel the 2 and the -6. So divide them by 2, the 2 will be a 1. The -6 divided by 2 is -3. And then multiply those two together, you get -9 over 1. So our solution is n is greater than -9. Okay, so now on the third box, the lower left side, I want you to write this problem down. -4n is greater than 44. And I'm going to use my red pen to circle the variable, and then I want you to draw that line underneath the equal sign. And so on this one, we're going to have, it's -4 times n. We're going to have to use division because that's the inverse of multiplication. See, these are being multiplied. So we're going to divide by a -4. You always divide or multiply by the same sign of that number that's next to the variable. And you do the same thing on the other side, divide by -4. Now, on the side here, I want you to write divide by -4, okay? Because at the end, I want you to see, oops, what's happening, divide by -4. Okay, so we're going to solve this now. The -4's, they're going to cancel out. It's going to be a positive 1n. So then n comes, you're bringing that down, and then the inequality on this one, it's going to reverse. And the reason why it reverses is because we're dividing by a negative number, and that's what our rules said to do. It's going to reverse when you're dividing by a negative number to both sides. And then on the right side, we have 44 divided by -4. We use our triangle guy to get -11. And so this is our solution. Okay? Okay, so for number 5, I want you to write, here we're going to write negative and then a fraction k over 2.5. And then we're going to say is greater than or equal to -5. Okay, so on the left side, there's a negative in front of the fraction and there's a variable on top. So I always tell kids, if you see that, I want you to extend the fraction bar, okay, with the negative, so I make that long, and bring the negative to the bottom. Okay, so always keep the variable positive whenever you can. So the negative is only going to go to the bottom number. And you don't want to give it to both or else it makes the fraction positive. So you want to keep it negative. So you're going to circle the variable. You're going to draw your line underneath the inequality. And because here it's the k is being divided by a -2.5, we're going to multiply by a -2.5. So I'll just put it in parentheses. I'll try to squeeze it in. Multiply by a -2.5 to each side. And here on the side, I want you to put multiply by -2.5. Okay. And then on the left side, you're going to cross cancel the two -2.5s, and it's going to bring the k here. And because we're multiplying both sides by a -2.5, we are also going to reverse the inequality. So instead of greater than or equal to, it's going to be is less than or equal to. And then we just have to now multiply 2.5 times 5. So when you do that, I'm going to do it on the side here. Remember, you don't have to line up the decimal points when multiplying. So 5 times 5 is 25, and then 5 times 2 plus 2 is 12. And there's one number after the decimal point in the problem, so I'm just going to move it one time to the left. So now I'm going to get a positive 12.5 because a negative times a negative is positive. and then this is my solution. Okay? And so now what I want you to do is look at your notes, okay? So sometimes we are reversing it, sometimes we're not reversing the inequality. So notice, I know you can't see on mine anymore because it's kind of blurred out. Anytime we multiply or divide by a positive number, like in the second box, we just bring the inequality symbol straight down. But on this third box, anytime we multiply or divide by a negative number to both sides, like here and here, you reverse it. And that's all for your notes. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.